Unlock the path to healing with Exposed podcast. Join us as therapists from around the world break mental health taboos, share powerful stories, and provide insights that transform lives. Tune in, educate, and thrive.
This is the only moment we have. To us right now, the past only exists now. We project it backwards, but it's only right now for us. And the future is only a projection that we have forward. Yeah?
Hello and welcome everyone to Expose Show. Please help me to welcome Ben Kelly. Ben Kelly is a qualified clinical hypnotherapist specializing in helping individuals overcome challenges and make lasting change in their lives. Based in Horvish, near Bolton, Ben combines solution-focused brief therapy with a range of techniques, including parts therapy, Ericksonian hypnosis, NLP, IMT, AIMT, and timeline therapy. He's a member of the National Council of Hypnotherapy and the Association for Solution-Focused Hypnotherapy, fully and passionate about empowering others. Having personally experienced anxiety and depression in his youth, Ben spent years searching for effective solutions, traveling the world, and even spending time in a monastery in Nepal. His journey led him to hypnosis, which allowed him to break free from old patterns and embrace new ways of thinking and behaving. Today, Ben draws on his personal and professional experience to guide clients through transformational changes that improve their mental well-being and quality of life. Hello, welcome, Ben. I'm so happy you're here.
Thank you for having me. That was a lovely little intro. I should steal that from you.
You can. I give you the permission.
Thank you so much. How are you?
I'm really in peace as I went through all the difficult sounds of tychy, which is for me, as I'm from Poland, we don't have this thing, therapy, hypnotherapy. So
Okay.
it
There's
was
a lot of this.
right. Yeah, that's
Yeah.
But could you share with us what brought you here? Like, if you can share some of the monumental moments which define who Ben is today.
Oof. So,
Are we allowed to know? Are we?
yeah. You mentioned, obviously, I have a history of my own struggles with mental health. Getting through that, like a lot of people probably that are listening, led me on a journey through learning, through discovery, into mindfulness and meditation. I did the off to India thing that everybody does, maybe not everybody, but I went and spent time teaching English in a monastery, learning a lot more about Buddhism there. I spent time in the north of India, learning about Sufism, and then a lot of self-discovery and using what I'd learned, putting it all together, just drove me to want to help people out of their stuck state. And using trance, using our mind as the way of shifting how we see things was for me just the most natural idea. And so I went and I studied hypnotherapy. I opened my practice about 4 years ago or so. And yeah, that's kind of what's led us here.
Wow, 4 years, and that's crazy journey.
Yeah, the meditation, I started teaching meditation maybe about 10 years ago, on and off. And so that was maybe quite a natural route in anyway.
Yeah.
But yeah, this has been going on as my business for 4 years now. Yeah.
Um, and there's so many great reviews on Google when I went to your website, but um, I think people are just happy that you're doing what you're doing today. But I'm just curious, could you bring us some examples of what normally people come with to your office when they want to work with you? Not really what do they say, but yes, that also. But what I'm really interested more is what's under that. What's when you are going um, in sessions with them, what are you discovering? What's the root of the real reason of why they came to your office?
Okay. So that's a nicer question than sort of what do people come with? What do people really come with?
Yeah, that's the question. Yeah.
People desire a perspective change.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Our our brain sees something in a certain way. Our
Mm-hmm.
body has experienced something. Our brain has recorded it. We're stuck in a loop. That's what we're doing with everything, isn't it? And like we were just having a little chat before, and a lot of people have already been through therapies, have already been through talking, but that perspective still exists in their brain. So they still act on it. For instance, feeling threatened. So if you have that deep level of danger, then it's really hard to shake your head out of that. And so we just help you to change the perspective, to change how you see it or more how you experience it. And everybody's had a different learning. Everybody's had a different route into it. But they've picked up learnings that are causing the issue. It's just, well, yeah, that's it. It's a perspective that they've picked up in the past that just needs to change.
Mm. And how do you do that? Like, how do you, could you share a little more
Yeah,
on that?
yeah.
I know
So
it's a process and there's,
it's a process, but there's elements to the process. Yeah. So if it's me and you, if we're working through something, the first thing that we want to do is we want to understand how you experience it now. Yeah, it's not so much about what happened, it's about what you experience of it now, how you experience it. So we build up your current picture. Often there's the story of how you got there. So you obviously have one of those. We all have one of those. And then we start to build up the the contradiction. If you look at you now and who you are now versus who you were when you were vulnerable, there's a major contradiction between who she was and who you are. So once we learn about who it's more productive for you to start to see yourself as and experience yourself as, you're in that state, not the person that was vulnerable, but the person that is now completely safe, can look after herself, has the resources. Then we want to help the part of your brain that still sees the old picture just overwrite itself with the new picture. Yeah. Your brain has a prediction of the past, of who you can be in the past. Yeah. If it learned once you could be vulnerable, and if you carry on that picture of vulnerability about yourself, then you'll always be able to see yourself in that light. So when you look forward, you'll always be able to model yourself with that vulnerability. Does that make sense?
Yes, and it makes me think how to do it safety. Like, is there like a bad hypnotherapist who re-traumatize the brain versus how can we select, I mean, we as the audience who are listening, um, the
Okay.
right
So,
choice. Mm-hmm. Because I understand it's going really deep and there's so
well,
many
yeah,
people.
it is. So it's a really tricky question. Obviously, qualifications throughout the world differ. So that's the fact that somebody bothered, the fact that somebody is a member of an association and might therefore be being supervised, they're useful little things. The bigger thing with the safety is if your brain is just going near it and not processing it in a new way, then yeah, that's just traumatizing. Yeah. The idea of just having you exposed to it isn't, it's not dangerous, but it's just reinforcing that part of your brain that runs that program. So when we're looking at doing it safely, appropriately, we're looking at doing it firstly in what we'd think of as a dissociated way, so that you're safe from it, so you're detached from it. And then always with the view of adding a new perspective. And if you think about it, you generally already carry your new perspective. Do you know what I mean? You,
That I always have the new perspective somewhere, but maybe
yeah,
not always accessible.
absolutely. You, even to go to therapy, you want to see it differently.
Right. Yeah. Even though some people might not recognize it as an asset, they just, but it is an asset that you already have the new perspective and it's just, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So often you already hold the contradictory picture, the new perspective. And part of you wants to have that. Yeah, it's just helping to align the new reality with the old learning.
Mm-hmm.
So that's memory reconsolidation. That's what we call that. And that's using the brain's plasticity to basically rewrite old networks. That's the easiest way to think of it. So, something encodes when you're younger, and then it always fires through that neural network. And then traditionally what we're trying to do is grow a new neural network with a new behavior so that the old one wears out. But really what we want to do is we want to overwrite the existing ones with new information, contradictory information, which causes them to take a new perspective, which would be you now. If we open it up in your brain now, then it's your brain now that has the perspective to review all of those old circumstances under.
Yeah, it's well, And then another, so I wrote down the memory reconsideration. That's the way how um, I think the um, mirror neurons has to do with it.
Yeah. So it's a bit like this, right? You know, if you have a Word document
Mm-hmm.
and you can type over it,
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
and then you have like a PDF and you can't type over it,
Right. That's
yeah. So your Word document is in like read write,
mm-hmm.
and your PDF is in like read only. So old beliefs or old experiences, like traumas, yeah. It's almost like they're stuck in our brain in a read only file,
Mm-hmm.
but you can't type over it,
Yeah. PDF. Right.
yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I like the example. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And even if you've told yourself a new story and built yourself up, like thinking you're typing over a PDF, when you go back in and open it up again, it'll still be the same PDF.
Right.
So what we're doing
Mm-hmm.
is we're turning it back into read write again.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So that we can overtype it.
Yeah. Yeah. And yeah.
Yeah.
And
And then when we save it again, then it fires in the new way. It's the new document and not the old one that's saved.
right. So would that be fair to say that when that's the moment when the change happens, that's the moment when whatever issue I came with, I would start making different choices.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Mm.
So that's just when your brain goes to an old file to
Mm-hmm.
learn to do in that case. It
Mm-hmm.
just reads the new thing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So instead of you seeing yourself in an old way, you see yourself in a new way. Or instead of you having the old action, you'll start having the new action.
Right. Yeah. And when you were, yeah, is it um what are some of the common not issues, but how is hypnotherapy for everyone? Like if people are struggling, yeah, with food disorders or overworking or any type of addiction, um, can they use hypnotherapy for that change, or is it
Yeah.
just oh,
Yeah. Your brain learned a pattern of behavior. Yeah.
mm-hmm,
Like when it wants stimulation, it goes to a certain substance, or when it wants escape, it goes to a certain behavior.
mm-hmm,
Yeah, either seeking out pleasure or avoiding danger. So we're always doing the same thing. We're just helping to overwrite the old learning, the old behavior. And like you were talking about having been through IFS, I think it was.
yeah, yes, mm-hmm, yeah, I had a few sessions of IFS, the internal family system therapy.
Yeah. And that's really cool, isn't it?
Oh yeah, it's interesting, how it all makes sense. All the I can feel this and this way, and it all makes sense.
Yeah. Like that multiple self.
hmm
Yeah. So those parts that you discuss in IFS, yeah, the part of me that wants to do this and there's the part of me that doesn't want to do that. They're just neural networks. It's just a name that we've given to parts of the brain that have got used to firing together and just creating that connection. So a part of you just lives in a neural network, and some of them are very, very separate to each other. Yeah. And so it's just that part that we're opening up so that it can see a new reality versus the existence that it's stuck in.
Right. I it just all Yeah, it's so interesting when you're saying this, and I hope that our audience can see in their lives how that can be applicable. Because so many times we want to change a behavior, and whatever it is, you said, either we seek the pleasure or we avoid the pain, and there can be something else too in between. I want this
Well,
and
yeah, but at its most basic elements, that's always what we're doing, isn't it?
survival.
Yeah. You're just a whole bunch of survival mechanisms and mechanisms for seeking out enjoyment or sustenance.
Mhm.
They're all just little behaviors you've learned throughout your life, yeah?
Mhm.
And you wrote a story between them all into who you are and what it means to be you and those experiences. And
Mm.
so we just switch out the ones that are unproductive.
I like what you said that the IFS has those, those are just neural pathways, that those parts of us. And I also see that you are actually certified in parts therapy.
Yeah. So I'm a parts hypnotherapist, and it just it's a logical way to think about it, isn't it? Yeah, there's a part of me that wants to do it, and there's a part of me that doesn't want to do it. It's just nice language. Yeah. Did you find this?
Well, it validates
Yeah.
having the opposite feelings of, yeah, there is a reason why I don't want to do it, and there is a reason why I want to do it, and there is a reason why I want to do something instead.
Yeah. Absolutely. It's very validating, isn't it?
Mhm.
And this is where then we start to bring mindfulness into it,
Mhm.
because even once we shift out of a really stuck place, we've still got to juggle all these parts. Yeah. And so we need to start to get capacity around sitting with the conflict between the parts of us. And
Mm.
that's why I like to use mindfulness with other techniques, hypnotic techniques, to start to create like a full system of change. And that way people learn the ongoing life skills as well as just making that specific change here and there.
And how do you see mindfulness? Like, what's your perspective on mindfulness? So I assume some people can assume they know what's mindfulness, but I'm curious, how do you see it and what it really is?
So mindfulness meditation is the
Mhm.
old idea of it, yeah. But it's a practice and a set of techniques to manage yourself in the here and now, or manage yourself back into the here and now, or keep yourself here. So most of the issues that we have exist in the past or in the future, yeah. And most of them exist because of how we manage them in our head. Not to say all of them, but most of the ongoing ones are things that are still ongoing in us. And either it's something that's happened to us or how we're expecting something in the future. But the place that we need to manage it all is right now. So, without being overly simple, this is the only moment we have. To us, right now, the past only exists now. We project it backwards, but it's only right now for us. And the future is only a projection that we have forward. Yeah. So this is our space to operate from. And so mindfulness is the techniques that we use to get back into this space and then to stay here for long enough to work from it. And you have immediate things that you can do for me to be mindful. Are your feet on the floor? Yeah.
Yeah, there I have barefoot on. Yeah, I was just walking on the sand before our call. I live in
Yeah.
front of the ocean.
How lovely.
Yeah,
So is it a hard floor or is it carpet?
carpet. This is carpet right now.
Okay. So I want you to notice for a minute for me, just your feet are on the floor. I want you to notice how they feel on the carpet. And you can look at them, but you can also start to feel how they feel. Yeah. You remember how they felt on the sand when you were out on that beautiful beach. And now you can notice how different the carpet is under your feet. You can start to notice how you notice it most. Maybe you notice the texture of the carpet or the pressure of your feet against the floor or the temperature of the air going across the top of your feet. And as you really start to notice where you notice it the most, on what foot you notice it the most, as you just really bring yourself into this moment, just through that awareness, you can start to really shift your experience there. Because then you can start to bring other things into your awareness. You can start to bring the chair into your awareness. You've been sat on it the whole time, but then as soon as it's mentioned, you become more aware of it. Yeah. And your focus changes. Yeah. You've just moved into this present space, which is almost like going back into neutral if you were driving a vehicle. Yeah. This is like your little bit of operating room. So this is the place that we learn to just notice stuff. Yeah. Because when we get into this space and we just learn to be here, then we just start to notice what's going on. So you notice what's going on around you. And then you start to slowly notice what's going on inside of you. But all you're doing through it is learning not to run away with it. Yeah. If you imagine a river, if I asked you to watch the river, but every time a leaf went by on the river, you just watched the leaf instead. Yeah, until you'd craned your neck, looking all the way down as that leaf goes all the way. But actually, you're meant to just be watching the river. And so this is just watching the river. And if things flow by on the river, you can just watch them go past. You can notice them, but not follow them. And then when a part of you has a desire, a belief, a need, and you can, when you become aware of that going on and you step into this space, you can start to use this space to notice things. Yeah.
Mhm. Yeah, and I bet you start to notice more as you go.
Yeah. Because we can start with things like, I notice my feet are on the floor.
Mhm.
When we use language, because we use language to describe the whole world to ourselves, yeah,
Mhm.
we use a lot of I am statements. Yeah.
Yeah.
I am good, I am bad, I am happy, I am sad. Yeah, we'd say a lot of things like, I'm angry.
Yeah.
Yeah. But what we mean,
Or
what do we mean?
what do we mean?
Yeah. When we say I am angry, what do we mean?
I am experiencing that
Yeah.
part of me is right now feeling either it has to do with the past or really it is something from the present.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So then, as soon as you've done that, it's a part of me that's doing it. Yeah.
Mhm.
So then what we're doing is we're just noticing that part.
Mhm.
We're not associating with it.
Yeah.
Because then we can start to say, right, I notice that part feels like this. What else do I notice?
Mhm. Yeah, I
Yeah.
noticed
Like you said before, there would be different parts that would have different desires.
just the body sensations. I would have, some feeling in my solar plexus, of like very uncomfortable feeling something moving.
Yeah. And even as you feel that, right? Firstly, because you're just noticing it, you're not going to create a resistance within it. So you're just going to notice it
Hmm.
as you also notice your feet are on the floor.
Right.
And this creates a space that we can be with things. Yeah. And the more we can notice more than one thing at a time, we're growing a capacity to be able to sit. Yeah.
Hmm. Yeah.
Because it's not consuming me.
Right. It's not me. It's not I. It's part. And
Yeah.
I made this movement because I realized it can go up. Once there can be days when you can really be watching it and have that space. Other days you just feel less capable, and having the compassion between those days and realizing that yeah, I'm a human. I might sometimes um that's actually brings in me a question. If you want to answer it, is it healing means that I'm no longer like is it healing means that 100% of the moments I'm reacting, I'm not reacting, I'm responding to it? Or is it healing like I can have those days where the realization comes after?
We're aiming for complete change.
Mhm.
The the ideal level that we see is when the same stimulus comes in, only the other response fires naturally. Yeah, we're not looking for only having options. We're looking just for that to fire differently.
Mhm.
That's that's transformational change. That's that when we've saved it back to PDF form with the new set of instructions, when we get that how we want it. I know it sounds obviously too good to be true. And obviously, we're not talking about forgetting, but we are talking about, yeah, complete change of experience.
It wasn't really too good to be true. It more I was thinking how many times does it take in average to create that change? Like we know, like Joe Dispenza does those, neuro um this research in neuropsychology showing that it takes 64 times to create a new neural pathway, like to repeat certain behavior. Um, but I would like to know more. Um, is that true what I said? But more importantly than that, I wanted to ask, how, someone who's watching this, is it fair to tell them how long would take for them to create that lasting change? How many sessions, or are you doing it? Yeah, what's the frequency? And if there are any intense trainings where people can do it in,
It should only take a number of sessions. I mean, a small number of sessions. I would book someone in for 4 sessions usually if we're looking at making a specific change. Trauma can extend, it depends on the layers, the intensities, but every session with how I work, with how hypnotherapists work, you should be expecting to see a change. Your idea of creating a new pathway, that's the idea of writing a new document and forcing yourself to look at the new document and not the old document every time. Yeah. And trying to just get really used to only looking at the new document. We want to overwrite the old document. And how long it takes to do that, it only takes a moment to do that. How accessible it is to do it is the question. If you go back to your parts work, there are protector parts, there are exiled parts, and we make change not just through the idea, but through the felt experience of it. Yeah. So the more work's required to actually get that person at least partially associated to that part, or to get through any other mechanisms that are in place, the protector parts, the firefighter parts. That's where most of the work would actually take place.
Do you do only individuals therapy, or also couple therapy, or group hypnotherapy sessions?
Most of my work is one-to-one, but then I run workshops, but that's more just around mindfulness and mental health training. We use visualization, which obviously a lot of hypnotherapy is visualization, and getting into the felt sense of it. Like the somatic work, which I think is really important. Is this something that you've experienced?
Somatic work?
Yeah, like the body work.
Yeah. I mean, is your question how that is important in my own healing, or what?
Well, yeah, is it something you've had experience of?
Honestly, yes, and it was crucial for me,
Yeah.
releasing the trauma from my body, and it started, it didn't started. It's until, it has been 24 months when I first time heard about, AMDR therapy, and my therapist was just training me how I can pay more attention to those body sensations, and I was like, oh wow, this feels good.
Yeah.
To notice that, instead of trying not to, so because I that's a skill I had to learn. I At the age of 27, I think, first time ever,
and
conscious.
to actually go into the experience and be positive within it.
Mm,
Yeah.
right.
And
It
if
was.
you think you're proving to your nervous system at that point that it's safe. Yeah.
Yeah, that's what it was. That I felt safe, and I named it. I know. And then I realized I can use it anytime I am without the therapist. And it's, yeah, it's very empowering when you
Yeah.
know how to regulate yourself. And I mean, regulate is a big word, but just pay attention to what comes up in your body, sensations.
But that's the start of regulation, isn't it? Awareness is the beginning of self regulation.
Hmm.
And what we want to start doing as well is creating that future state. Yeah. Mentally and physically.
So when it comes to, because we are talking about now, what comes now in our body, can we create those sensations to create our live visions and like taking that quantum leap? Like, let's say we healed the past and we can
Yeah.
be here now, consciously present. And what's next? Like, what about another type of clients who might come to you and say, "Hey, I want to, achieve this," and I feel not just coming from the ego, but more. Yeah, can you use those body sensations and hypnotherapy to help somebody live in that new reality where they want to be when they feel their soul, uh, not would like them to be, but there is something, some force drawing them to that vision, new reality.
Okay. I love this. Okay.
You do?
So, yeah,
Why?
because I know exactly what you mean. And it's a difficult thing. Trying to put language to it's tricky, but no, I really know what you mean. Okay.
Mhm.
So, yeah, you've kind of reached that neutral point. You've got out of the old point, but now you want to
Right.
project yourself into the future. Yeah. And so, what we want is we want to know what that's going to feel like. Okay. So, the contradiction that we're usually working with is emotion and intelligence. Yeah. And your body holds emotion. Yeah. The body, that's where it's stored. Yeah. So when we want to start to move forward, we want to start to change our physical emotion.
You mean the body holds emotion? What do you mean?
Right. Your body is your input output system.
Hmm.
It's the chemical system that is feeding information into and out of the brain. Yeah.
I see. Okay, okay, yeah. Now I see.
Yeah.
The sensations first they come in your brain and then they're felt.
So things that your brain has created gets felt by the body, but things that the body has experienced gets felt by the brain. And you're in a feedback loop.
Right, like through a massage or something, then
Yeah.
through a
Or even just through touching your environment, seeing your environment. Yeah. All
Mm.
five of your senses are taking in information.
Yeah, I just never thought this way. Like it happens, but yeah,
Yeah.
it happens in the same time. Stimulate.
Absolutely, it does. Yeah. It gets very rapidly processed and it creates your experience that you're having right now. Yeah.
Hmm. Yeah, that's an interesting shift in perspective.
Yeah. And this is important when we want to make a change. Yeah. So when we realize that this what we're having as our experience is an interpretation of what our body has experienced. Yeah.
Yeah,
And
I give a meaning to that. Like if I, you know, I can give the different meaning. Like I can give a meaning of like I hear something, somebody moving something upstairs. I can take it as a threat, and actually my heart starts to beat. I had that yesterday, and I was like, oh wow, that's weird. That my body took it the negative way. Not negative, but protecting me instead of like, you know, the opposite.
yeah, absolutely. And there was a feedback. Your body took that sound in, your brain registered it,
hmm
marked that that could be threatening.
Yeah,
That
actually.
signal went back to your body that's then primed itself.
Yeah, and it was
Yeah.
really dark. It kind of was like, when I was 13, I witnessed my brother, trying to, take his life, and that sound commit suicide. I don't like commit word, so I use
Yeah. Yeah.
because nobody commits a crime. Like people commit crime, but not commit suicide. I guess,
Yeah.
but that sound reminded me, what I heard. I mean, the kind of whatever it was, it went there. So my heart was thinking somebody's taking life. Uh,
Okay. Yeah.
and
So
I,
it took you back there.
yeah, it was a moment, yeah, there was more to the story, but it was really what you said, the second thing, that sometimes it can be, our environment, how our body feels it, and then actually it was both because something triggered from the past, and then
Yes.
it was that moment when I was in the past. Yeah, and it's
Absolutely. Yeah. You were in the past then, weren't you?
yeah, I felt like something tragic is happening, and I went upstairs and everything was cool, but I was like, wow. Yeah.
Okay. So this is where we would start to make these changes. Okay.
hmm
So you've got a, a feedback loop of something like that takes you out of the present moment. Yeah.
hmm
And what that means is when your brain goes back there, your body, what does your body do at that point? Does it curl up or yeah, you cringe, yeah?
Yeah, the stomach. It was my stomach my tummy felt really like cringe. Like
Okay, yeah,
I feel fear. It was fear, basically.
yeah. Because the freeze response, yeah, you know this, like flight, fight,
hmm
or freeze, yeah.
hmm
Freeze has either constriction, tightening up, or dissociation. So we're going to go one of two ways. We're either going to start to zone out or we're going to start to
Yeah,
squeeze down. Yeah.
yeah, feel it like squeeze down.
Yeah. So
It's interesting how sometimes some people will pick up the disassociation when others. I mean, what makes that is interesting, right? Why?
absolutely. Yeah.
I
How
don't
you
know why.
fall on that spectrum.
Yeah, I don't know if we even now know why would that happen, because it's not a conscious thing. You're choosing your trauma response. It is not. It has to do maybe with your temperament and genes, things you witness around you, culture. But yeah, it's interesting.
It's so interesting, isn't it? Yeah. But whichever one you're doing, we're going to have to counter that and bring it back into the middle.
hmm
Yeah. So even when we're working on ourselves, if that's happened and we see ourselves going off there, yeah, right away oh, I'm doing that. Right. I'm here. I'm now. I'm not then.
Yeah.
Yeah.
hmm
And then we need to, if we're con- constricting, then we need to start to really, really relax.
Mhm.
Like physically, like, like you said before about like your chest went a little bit.
Mhm.
So we'd want to start to learn about how we do that and how we start to undo it. Yeah, through body scans, through being with ourselves, through learning how we're tense and how we're loose.
Yeah, yeah. And just naming it, what you said before, like, I still want to ask you the question, you started it, but I brought this example just to use my case as a study for our audience too, to see that, yeah, now, as I talk with you, there is this awareness, a new quality of awareness, which I can bring to the future of like, okay, because I still had the experience that's awareness that this is not me, but this is just some part of me experiencing it. But it felt real. It felt my heart was beating a little because there was this choice, right, in my mind. Am I going to go to that place, to that part with there in the past? Or am I going to do the body scan? Am I going to, you know, check out, bring myself to the present? I'm safe. But what I did in that moment, I went to that dark side of like, oh my God, maybe something's going on. So that was something what I primary at the beginning of our talk wanted to share that and ask you, and it keeps coming back. So maybe I will. Um, why would we be repeating the same, reaction over and over again? Are we looking for some closure? Um, there's yeah.
Okay, so that's a little bit of a tricky question, only because the natural thing to begin with is to, when we've gone into survival mode, yeah, when we've been threatened, to just do what we would do. So when your fight or flight mechanism kicks in, you lose your intelligent functions of your brain
Mm-hmm.
and you go into just a behavioral state.
Mm-hmm.
Your brain is encouraged to look for danger.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So part of it is you're encouraged to think the worst
Mm-hmm.
when something happens, especially if you're already holding a, a physical and a mental state of danger.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. If that's confirming, if that noise upstairs confirms a fear, yeah, like for you, then it's a route back in.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we have that memory that's linked to survival. But then there's almost another part where you sort of say about sort of almost like trying to learn lessons. And we do like to do that. Our brain wants a safe conclusion. Our brain's like a modeling system. It's taking the information from the past and projecting it forward into every possible experience that it can see you having. And it's like it maps them all out for you, yeah? And if it gets near one of those that it predicts is a problem, it either pushes you away from it or it wants you to go and learn it so you can survive it in the future.
Mm.
Yeah, you'll have heard of trauma bonding.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah,
I like examples, but yeah.
yeah. So somebody that has um, an unavailable parent
Mm-hmm.
will often accidentally or subconsciously seek out unavailable partners
Mm-hmm.
so that they can actually, like at a deeper level, learn how to resolve having their needs met by someone that's unavailable.
Yes.
Yeah.
Mhm.
That sort of thing's pretty common.
Yeah, very common in all those people I interview.
Yeah.
Over 80 people share the same thing. Having that unavailable parent, and of course, including my story too, and then looking for that, seeking that they might meet my needs now. So,
Yeah. And
and
playing it out with a different person, although really you're projecting it onto
yeah.
that parent. Yeah.
Mm.
So when that's the case, we we help early you learn that this you can take care of her,
Mhm.
that this you is always there for her needs.
That parent inside of you.
Yeah. And often that closes that loop.
Mhm.
Yeah. And in a way that
Right. You
then
become
we
you become the one you have been looking for.
literally, yeah.
Yeah.
And that vulnerability goes away. So you having to go near places that you could learn the lesson from it
Yeah.
is no longer necessary either. So
Yeah.
we were saying before, and only because it's the other side of it is going forward,
Mhm.
right? So what we start with is the physical modeling. So we know how we feel when we feel grim. So we want to work out how we want to feel
Mhm.
when we get to that place that we're designing in the future. So you have a future goal. Yeah, of course you do. Yeah. I don't need to know it because you know it. Your body knows it. Yeah. But you know it. Yeah. Right. Sit for me how you're going to sit when you've achieved that goal.
I will stand up,
Okay. No, but no. Awesome. Right. Stand up for me then.
but then the camera will.
Who cares? Who cares?
Okay. 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 Okay.
Yeah.
Oh,
So
yes.
how are you going to be stood when you've achieved that goal?
I think like I will have my hands open
Yeah.
and like this like to the sky. Like open
Okay.
all my chakras open. Yeah.
Okay. And how do you feel when you're standing like this right now?
Energized and like ready to do some things.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
I just want you to really have this experience right now.
Mhm.
Really learn about this experience and just be in this moment
Mhm.
of having this experience. Get a sense of what your body's like, how this feels. And then all I want you to do is close your eyes. I want you to send your mind forward into the future and see yourself achieving that goal now with all of this same wonderful positive energy. I want you to see it for being that amazing. I want you to see where you're going to be, who you're going to be with, how you'll know when you've achieved it. And I just want you to make it as big as you can right now. You can hear yourself almost shouting from the rooftops because it's so amazing. And then I want you just to float back along the timeline from then back to now, just seeing yourself going through all of those parts of achieving that, all of those smallest steps that make that possible. Each one seeing yourself feeling that amazing, feeling all of that energy. And as you can just feel all of that energy flooding through you, you get more and more excited about moving down this wonderful journey along this path towards all of this growth. And as you float back to now, you can just imagine the smallest steps that will really start you on this path. You get a sense of exactly where you're going to be, when you're going to be doing that, and how amazing it'll feel just to have started it. knowing that you're heading towards such an amazing future. And even as you just feel it all flooding through you again now, as you feel yourself connected to that future you know it's just a case of walking one step at a time. And then you just notice that your feet are on the floor. You just get a sense of the room around you. You just let yourself just be here for a moment. And just allow your awareness to return.
Hmm.
Yeah, so we want to have the whole experience that we're showing our brain and our body that future idea, and it's going to mark it as being such a high prize to move forward towards. Yeah, like the biggest prize it could go after. And because remember, our brain is only looking for things that our body has recorded as being valuable in interaction.
Hmm. To
Yeah,
create that memory in our body before it happens.
literally, yeah. So you're sliding in this experience to go after. And by having the experience, when you mentioned about Joe Dispenza before and about the whole idea of the number of times that you'd want to be firing a pathway. Well, the interesting thing is that you don't always have to be doing it to get those pathways firing. Doing it through mental rehearsal, which is what you've just done, fires the same pathway as actually doing it.
Because the brain
Is-
doesn't recognize the imagination
Yeah,
from reality. It's the same.
especially when the nervous system is involved. Yeah. If the nervous system is sending in that chemical response and you're creating a vivid image, the brain does not know that that's not happening.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's getting the feedback out of the body. It's got the visual. So as far as it's really concerned, it's having that experience, to mark as something worth moving towards.
Could we create that? I mean, it's a superpower. Everyone can learn it, and I hope that our audience um, can get to experiment and experience it with you. I'm going to put a link to the website below.
Please.
But I was just also curious. Can you use this superpower when it comes to, I mean, creating some new memories from the past? Like, can you imagine your childhood being different and then create that, memory reconsideration of having a viable parent and creating those memories? Because I heard about some researchers doing that with the past.
Right. So there's a danger with that. Okay.
Oh, I didn't know that. Yeah.
Well, we can do that,
Mm-hmm.
but we have to be very careful that we're super aware that that's a false memory. If, right. So there's a cool application to it because you basically work off of resources. Yeah.
Like your memories, resources. Yeah.
Well, the learnings you took from the memories, the skills you picked up, your emotional and mental resources.
Oh, that's what you mean. Okay. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. If you can go back and create an event that ties one of those parts of you to your resources, your
Mm-hmm.
resource even of feeling love or feeling trust. Yeah. If absolutely knowing that that's the reason that you're doing it and knowing that it's not real, if it's productive, then that can have really useful applications. It's just, we've got to be really delicate with things like this. The memory is very fickle. And so we don't want to be creating false memories. And so much of what we care about now is only how you're having your experience. We can't change the past. Yeah, most of what we're going to do is change how you look at it.
Yeah. And how you look at can change the way, I mean, those shifts in perspective, people can have as they go in their healing journey, working with you or any um, safe therapies, whoever they choose to um, be with. Because I
Yeah.
do believe it's a work we have to. It is easier to have someone else through those transitions. I wonder how much you can do it by your own, how much there is that need of having that second person.
Doing it on your own is tricky
Hmm.
because, well, it's a little bit like climbing a mountain. Yeah. If you were going to go up one of the really big high peaks of a mountain, you could potentially do it on your own. But having a guide, it doesn't mean you're not going to do the work, but it means that potentially they've already traversed those routes before themselves and with others.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, I see.
It might just be more productive.
And yeah, and faster, I guess. And it's and another thing it brings in me is that what you shared about changing those past memories and the risk of that, and maybe there is no need for that because, like you said, being here now, what comes can be more important than really going and well dealing with what it is now, because different people can i- just because of you've been through some trauma, if that doesn't affect your presence, then there is no, yeah, maybe there is no need
Well, then
to.
it's just a story, isn't it?
There is a story.
Yeah. Once it's not affecting you in the here and now.
Well, that's powerful. You said that's a story, yeah, because that is the result of going through healing. But can it be that somebody went through trauma and didn't affect them at all, and they just, yeah.
Well, yeah, people, we have post traumatic stress and we have post traumatic growth.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Some people just, because of situation and condition and whatever nuance to it, they aren't traumatized. What I think is sort of one third of people are traumatized by events or left with PTSD. And I might be horribly wrong with that figure, and I'm sorry if I am. But not everybody has a predisposition towards it. And really, trauma isn't what happened to you. Yeah, trauma is the outcome of it. So what we're dealing with is your experience because you're experiencing it now. Once you're not experiencing it, then it's just about how you reconcile that, for instance, something awful happened. But, when we take you've used this as fuel for who you're becoming. So you're making it as productive as it can be. Do you know what I mean?
Right. I do understand that I did, the best out of what I had. But then gets me emotional because I'm proud of myself, I guess. Well, part of me
Yeah.
is proud, another is like, yeah, I did it.
Yeah. But that part of you, she can actually hear that, can't she? And when she hears that, she can then notice that, yeah, there's pride coming up.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And and relieve that, didn't go the another way. because I do believe that we don't have to go through, pain and suffering, like that the universe, God of everything, didn't create it all. He gave us this free will. Yeah. And the suffering is some results of our behaviors.
I think
So,
that's a tricky one.
yeah.
I think the difference is pain, that's something that happens. Yeah. Suffering
Mm.
is something that we add on to it.
We what? Suffering?
We add suffering.
Oh, we
It's a
add.
really, really difficult one, this.
Hmm.
You know, it's how we respond to pain that creates our suffering.
Mhm.
You know, if my bad back hurts, that's
Mm.
pain. If I'm upset and stressed out
Yeah, that's suffering.
and in desire for it to be different, that's suffering. Yeah, it's the emotional element to it.
The judgment of it.
Yeah. And that's really tricky, that's not to be taken lightly, that idea, because it doesn't mean that it's not a natural state to go into, to suffer. It's a very natural state for us to go into. But once we start to
What
learn,
do you mean natural? Like, is it because of our ancestors use that for protection and survival, and so that's why we copy it almost, and it takes years of our life to realize we have a choice to change the meaning we give it to.
yeah, well, we're conditioned to label things, aren't we? We use our language to describe the world, to map it for ourselves. And because we're conditioned to judge stuff, we give everything a polarity: good, bad, tasty, not tasty, happy, sad. Yeah, everything is given a polarity and then we judge it in between. That's how we navigate it in the future. And then, of course, we have this direct leaning towards avoiding the bad stuff and going for the good stuff.
So, what is your way of seeing the new world? How Ben see it? Like, imagine a world when people go through therapy, and how would that be different? I bet you already, have the answers for that somewhere, and you ask this question yourself before I ask you. But I'm curious about if you are willing to share a little, if we can move as a society and leave that survival and that language of which helps to prevent.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So we obviously everything's perspective. Yeah. And we're talking about polarity. Yeah. Between, for instance, positive and negative, good and bad. If you talk to someone that's going to the gym, then what they're doing on their curve, up and down, is they're having days in the gym that they see as productive. And then they might get upset on the day that they have to rest because they see themselves as unproductive. But once you help them to know that they can't get bigger, stronger, fitter, faster, whatever it is, without rest, then they start to learn that that other side of it is a different sort of productive. Yeah. And so I like to use the polarity of productive. It gets us out of judgment. Yeah. So another layer of suffering that we can create through even calling ourselves names for how we are urged to behave. And so when we just start to say, is that productive or is that unproductive? Or is it productive or is it a different sort of productive?
I like that different sort of productive. because of
Yeah.
where did we learn what's productive, and you know all those things we when we're in survival we never question the meaning of every single word and how it matters, because it shapes our experiences and the way how we receive things and how we respond to it.
Literally, yeah.
Hmm.
How you're describing your experience to yourself. And then once you've got to that point where you're probably tearing yourself apart all the time,
Hmm.
yeah, it's like, you know, when you've been maybe gaslit for so long, it's hard to trust yourself. Yeah.
Hmm.
Or when you don't have any self esteem or something like that, then productive is a far safer scale to be on. Yeah, we're only judging the action. We're only judging the thought. We're only judging the experience based on productivity.
Hmm.
Yeah. Is this a productive thought to be having right now?
Yes,
Not, do I deserve it?
mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. You mean that sometimes you might be focusing on the productive and doing can you repeat that again, because you mentioned that with the gaslighting part and like how sometimes
Right. So if I have trouble making decisions
mhm,
or trouble putting myself first,
mhm,
if I, if it's difficult for me to assert myself
mhm,
because I'm stuck on all of these polarities. Am I good enough, bad enough, worthy enough, unworthy enough? Yeah.
mhm,
And when we only change, when we drop all them judgments and we
mhm,
just say productive versus unproductive.
mm.
Yeah. So
It's like
should I go and,
releasing those mm, labels.
yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And the stories that go with it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Should I do this right now? Is it productive?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
That's the new way of thinking,
It's an option
an option,
just to change how we're valuing things.
and break some neural pathways, because it will be the first time you ask yourself this. So your brain
Yeah.
is going to wire different neural pathways.
Yeah. And literally you offer that new lens and you can create that opening
Mm-hmm.
of shock, you know, something that thought doesn't belong in that loop.
Yeah.
Yeah. So even as simple as that, taking a moment and using these tools like we've been discussing, you know, to get into the present moment, even for long enough, for a split second to go, oi, is that productive? And your whole brain has to stop and go, what do you mean? Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, no, is that productive right now?
Yeah.
And it can be a big one.
Yeah. And then allowing ourselves to don't judge it when it comes to like, no, it's not productive, I need to rest, but it's productive for part of me who needs that rest.
So that's the other productivity. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. It might not be that productive, but is it that productive?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. There might be always things that fall into the non-productive, but then again, we're not, even, this is where it gets a bit silly, because then even if you try and get upset with yourself over being unproductive, then you just have to ask yourself, hey, is it productive for me to get upset with myself over this?
Yeah. Yeah. And it's amazing how I can see having somebody as a coach therapist on the side with a different consciousness can help to spot those moments in us, because it's like you can only see so much in your own behavior, because of, it helps you to survive one thing, and it's the mechanism, and it's doing the best it can, and it's amazing. But then having somebody on the side, and it can really first I can see how it can bring value, like creating those new questions. You can actually start using it, and it gets to the point you don't no longer need that, the second person. You are becoming that voice, and it comes naturally, because that's how it was for me. Like, I no longer attack myself really, and have those thoughts of, which I had a lot, criticism, and it's so much more space for compassion, and it's like I'm a new person. It is like, one time I was interviewing someone else saying this, I'm a new person. I was like, it was 4 years ago when I was doing this documentary, and I was like, I was like thinking, wow, I just remember it really stuck in my mind, because I was probably hoping one day I could say that about, yeah,
Yeah.
that's me, but make it accessible for me too, but others, that it's a skill that literally everyone can get there. It's
Yeah. It's like a past life now, isn't it?
yeah, it is that feeling that you have many lives in one life. Like, where I'm going, it is also different life. I do believe than I will have in 7 years, and
Of
then
course.
and the same everyone.
It's so exciting, isn't it?
Well, it is, because because if you've been through hell, then how, what's the opposite of that? You feel like, wow.
Absolutely.
The contrast, it can be the ecstasy of it, and then how to appreciate it so much more. It's how people can work with you.
So either www.horwich, which is HORWICH, hypnotherapy.com, or also www.change-works.co.uk. They're my websites. I'm Ben Kelly on LinkedIn and Facebook. So you're welcome to come say hello. I work online as well as in the office, so we can always make something work. I don't run many workshops for individuals. Most of the workshops I run are more for businesses, but there's definitely an opportunity to look at the viability for things like that. I think group change workshops can be really healing for a lot of people to actually watch it and go into a state of excitement around the experience itself. So I think that's a really cool idea.
Yeah, I mentioned the group just because it's like another option, like you mentioned. It can be therapeutical somewhere,
Yeah.
but yeah. So, and some people like experiencing in the group, like I do. It's always like you can witness somebody going through similar experience while you are having your experience, and when it's made in a safe way, it yeah, I feel like it can even make the change in a different way. I don't know if more effective, but um, there has been recently so many, especially here where I live in LA, this breath work, like you go too deep in the breath work experience with, lying on the floor with people around you. And yeah, I was curious about how I feel that when it's done in a healthy, safety way, it can help, because otherwise, yeah, I can see the risk of it too, when it's not done by the right people.
Oh yeah. And with breath work, you want to make sure you're definitely with the right sort of person. The breath is a really powerful tool, but yeah, we want to use it right. I I see why these big group experiences are so powerful. Yeah, I'm all for that. I think that's when it's facilitated right, I think that can be a very special experience for people. I'd very much like more of that to be in my future, to be honest. But
Mm.
for now, yeah, a lot of one-to-one work, and well, there's always the option for group stuff. I run the workshops. It's just most of this sort of thing, especially when we're talking about trauma, which we haven't spoken about a lot today, but when it's trauma, I think, although we can do trauma release as a group, very little needs to be known about the person's experience to help them change. I still think the personal one-to-one service is generally easier on the system. I think the thing for trauma is definitely that it doesn't matter how long you've been living with it. There's always hope. Yeah, there's always some level of freedom from not what happened, but how you experience it now. It's never too late. And it doesn't have to be traumatic to go through it. So yeah, that would be my message, because I think hopefully there is some hope in that. And that's what we need.
I hope you enjoyed this interview, and please subscribe my YouTube channel. For you, it's a one click. For me, it means the possibility to continue creating impact in the world with those videos. Thank you, and see you soon.